Welcome to Shovel Talk, a podcast for economic developers. From your friends at the Golden Shovel Agency.
Welcome back, Shovelheads, to the latest episode of Shovel Talk. During this episode, Bethany will talk with Erin Sparks, who's the Economic Development Lead at Great River Energy. She is also the second Vice President for Mid-America EDC Economic Development Organization. She is also a GSA client and been a GSA friend since day one of the company. They will provide a sneak peek of the upcoming MADC 2025 Best Practices Conference, which is happening in beautiful Stillwater, Minnesota on May 13th through the 15th. And they will discuss lean strategies and data-driven growth. Well, what does that mean? Well, let's find out.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Shovel Talk. I am your host, Bethany Quinn, President of Golden Shovel Agency. And I am really excited to have our guest join us today. Erin Sparks is the Economic Development Lead for Great River Energy, and she also is a leader with Mid-America EDC. She is the second Vice President this year and is going to share so many exciting developments, both with what's happening with Great River Energy and with Mid-America EDC. So thank you for joining us today, Erin.
Thank you, Bethany. I'm really happy to be here.
You know, it's interesting because we have obviously worked with Great River Energy and you for a long time, and it's been really fun for Golden Shovel to support your guys' efforts. I know that you in particular have had a really impressive career path. Before Great River Energy, you also led economic development efforts at CETA. So you've been in the industry for a while, and I'm always curious to know what led my guest into economic development, right? It's not a traditional career path, and I would love to hear more about your journey.
Yeah, well, it is typically not a traditional career path. And I will say that how I found myself into the profession was a little bit happenstance. I was going to college at St. Cloud State University, and I think originally I was planning to pursue a career in marketing. I think I changed that to mass communications at one point and was really not sure what I wanted to do ultimately. I ended up taking a random elective, which was Intro to Community Studies. And, you know, for somebody who didn't always enjoy school, it was one of the first classes I can remember taking where I just found the content very interesting. And I didn't mind doing the homework because I could kind of connect what I was doing to what the end goal was. It seemed like it all kind of clicked for me. And I had a great professor. He was the dean of the community studies program who really supported me and encouraged me and made me feel like I had some natural talents in this area, which kind of kept me engaged in pursuing it. And yeah, I've loved everything about it ever since, to be honest with you.
That's fantastic. And how cool to have a professor who exposed you to community development in such a way that made it engaging. It's funny because, as you know, when you work in economic development and you chat with people about it, a lot of times eyes glaze over, right? It just can be overwhelming. It's like, what are you talking about? You know, even the word infrastructure can be a little overwhelming for folks. So obviously that professor was able to make the concepts relatable, and that's great.
Yeah, he was, I mean, I know he had such an impact on so many students. Dr. Kent Robertson, if you're from Minnesota or the upper Midwest, you may have heard of him. He was really kind of a legend in the field.
That's awesome. Well, once you graduated, obviously you knew this is what you wanted to do. Was CETA your first economic development job? I don't remember.
My first real job, you could say. So I graduated college kind of during the economic downturn. So looking for a city job was quite a task. Most communities were not hiring new economic developers at that time. And so I ended up taking a year-long internship working with the city of Woodbury here in the Twin Cities metro area. And I, you know, I kind of took that role because I needed to, but it ended up being such a wonderful experience for me. At the time, I wasn't sure whether I wanted to go more into planning or economic development, and they really let me divide my time and experience both roles and figure out what was kind of a better fit for me. Um, that really helped kind of solidify that economic development was the right path for me. And so when my year was up in Woodbury, the CETA opportunity came along and I jumped on that. So yeah, I have been doing economic development since day one.
That's awesome. And it's great that you were able to be exposed to both sides of the house, so to speak, to really
Yeah.
area of interest. So what are some of the lessons that you learned at your time at CETA that have continued to influence your approach to economic development with Great River Energy?
Well, for those who maybe aren't familiar with the organization, CETA stands for Community and Economic Development Associates, and they are a private nonprofit economic development consulting firm. And they really tend to focus on providing economic development staff support for mid to smaller communities, kind of those communities who would struggle to justify hiring their own in-house economic development staff, but who do have a need. CETA will work with them to, provide what they need in the amount that they can kind of handle. And so you're doing consulting, and that I think is such a valuable lesson. You need to approach the work as kind of an outsider, but find a way to quickly kind of integrate into what it is that they're trying to do. So just taking that consultant approach has served me very well in my new role, because Great River Energy, we support many member owners, and each one of them is their own company. They have their own personality, their own philosophy. They like to do things their own way. So you need to kind of work within those confines and find a way to add value. And that's exactly what you're doing when you're a hired consultant. So it's kind of the same role, only different.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I'm sure it's interesting coming to Great River Energy after that experience, because it obviously would have taught you to be lean in your operations, right? How do you maximize your impact if you're a consultant and only there part-time?
Yeah, absolutely. And, even at Great River Energy still, we're a team of 3 who provide economic development services to 26 member owners. So we are still very lean and have a lot of ground to cover, but we are pretty nimble. And I think we do a good job of responding to the needs of our member owners, and also kind of bringing them new ideas and new initiatives to think about.
Yeah, that's really interesting if you think about supporting such a large group, right? 26 member owners. And for those who aren't familiar with Great River Energy, can you explain what that means?
Yeah, so Great River Energy is the wholesale power supplier to 26 member owner distribution cooperatives throughout the state of Minnesota. So we make the electricity and we send it over high voltage transmission lines to our member owners, who step it down to a retail voltage and then distribute that to their customers. In the cooperative world, we call them all members, because we are owned by our members. So they're not just a customer, they are our bosses, essentially, But yeah, the service territory of our member owners is very diverse. We have some very rural ag farming communities. We have very tourist destination communities that may see a huge influx in their population in the summertime, and then see that go down in the wintertime. So each co-op has their own demographics, their own challenges, opportunities. It is very unique from cooperative to cooperative, I would say.
Well, and that's one of the things that I think is interesting because, supporting 26 member owners with a team of 3, obviously that's a huge lift, and you guys do a great job of that. And to put it in perspective for those who are listening, those 26 member owners could also be representatives of multiple communities, for each one. So the
Absolutely.
territory you support is actually quite large.
Yes, yes, it is.
Now, one of the things that I thought was really interesting that you rolled out at Great River Energy a few years ago was the data center site assessment program. And I was hoping that you could tell our listeners a little bit more about that program and how it's helped to prepare the communities that your member owners represent and work in for current project opportunities.
Yeah, so the data center site assessment program was an initiative that we rolled out shortly after I joined Great River Energy, and I was fortunate that I got to really kind of step into a leadership role in that initiative. We worked with Deloitte Consulting's real estate and location strategy practice to come in and help us do a comprehensive evaluation of kind of all of the aspects of site development. So the data center site assessment program would look at sites holistically, everything from surrounding land uses to appropriate zoning designations to the presence of natural hazards. If it's close to a floodplain or a body of water or an operation that generates a lot of vibration, or, when you're evaluating a site for a mission critical project like a data center, the standards are as high as they can be. So if you determine that a site is suitable for a data center, then it's likely going to be suitable for any range of industries, right? It's kind of the creme de la creme. And so we saw a lot of opportunities kind of flooding into those areas where we had identified these data center certified sites. Some of those were gobbled up by manufacturing operations. Some of them are still available, although have lots of interest on them now. But going through the exercise, we spent lots of time working with the communities in these areas, working with our member owner cooperatives in these areas to really expose them to all of the questions that would be asked by a company that was considering, this site. So I would say it really just helped prepare all parties involved for future opportunities. And that has really served us well as we've seen, projects grow in size and complexity. The work that we did to kind of assemble our internal teams for reviewing these opportunities, our processes for taking projects, through all of the necessary steps, we've gotten that down now to the point where we can be successful in responding to these large requests that are coming through now. I think if we hadn't gone through the process, we would be struggling with some of the workload that we're seeing today.
It's really interesting how that all works together, right? You said a couple of things here that I really want to unpack. One of which you talked about, if you're evaluating a site for use by a data center, it is that top end site, really, and it can be used for so many things. But I think that whether it was intentional or not, that was such a great strategy, because now if you're showing people that, hey, this is shovel ready for a data center, they could be in an industry like light manufacturing and know, wow, okay, well, this site obviously has everything that I need. So instead of having to put more time in to demonstrate that a site is going to be suitable for a company, you did so much work on the front end that it removes any of those question marks. So great strategy on your guys' behalf.
Yeah, and I can say, we've seen every type of project, manufacturing projects, the power demands associated with them today are more akin to what a data center load was back in 2014, because with every company looking to automate, looking to incorporate AI and new technologies, it requires more power. So we didn't maybe realize at the time, but these sites at the power levels that we were kind of evaluating them at would be more suitable for a light manufacturing project now, and data centers need much more than what we were currently evaluating back then.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, you don't really know what's going to happen. And being prepared, as you mentioned, is making it possible for you to engage in those conversations. And that's one of the challenges with site development, is that it takes a lot of money and a lot of time to get something ready, to get it certified, so that you can be competitive for a project. And it's obviously now it's one of those situations where if people haven't had the opportunity to repair a site, then they're not in the conversation for these companies that are trying to quickly onshore in the United States. Now, I'm hoping that you could maybe shed a little bit of light on how cooperatives can support site development, can support certification holistically, because some of our listeners may have not worked with a cooperative before, but may have one that's in their region.
Yeah, I think cooperatives are tremendous partners when it comes to economic development, because these are people who are deeply embedded in the communities that they serve. They were part of the community before they were part of the co-op in many cases, So cooperatives, I think, take a different view of economic development, more from the lens of, strengthening the local community, providing amenities, providing needed services, not as focused on what may be best for their bottom line, because they understand the needs of the community. Co-ops are not for profit. So we are not trying to make a profit for shareholders. Our owners are the members who use our services. So I read somewhere recently that I like the way that they framed it. They said, when you're a member of a cooperative, every time you pay your electric bill, you are making an investment in a company that you co-own. And I think that that's just a really powerful message. And most people probably don't look at it that way.
Well, it is a powerful message, absolutely. And because of that model, it allows obviously for cooperatives to have that money to reinvest back into the community and in a lot of these longer term projects. And for me, I think that's the historical power of the cooperative story, right? I mean, cooperatives starting, most people don't even realize, because we had to electrify parts of the country that just at a commercial level weren't financially viable. And cooperatives stepped in with funding sources that were available through the federal government. So you continue to see cooperatives make those impacts today. And I don't think it's a stretch to say that a lot of the development that has occurred in rural America is at least partially because of the role of cooperatives.
Absolutely. And, cooperatives are fortunate to have some federal funding programs that are accessible specifically to them to help support rural economic development. The USDA Rural Economic Development Loan and Grant Program is one that we use all of the time. Many of our member owners have used funds to establish rural industrial parks, support healthcare systems, build new fire halls, purchase fire trucks, water systems, food co-ops. I mean, the projects that come out of this program are really amazing to see. And oftentimes cooperatives are making this investment in projects that they don't even serve, but they see that it's for the good of the community, and the community will be stronger because of it.
Yes, absolutely. And again, cooperatives are such great partners for communities, and you really synthesized why. So thank you for sharing that background information. I know it's not particularly about your role exclusively, but if you are listening and you're not familiar with cooperatives or haven't worked with one before, I really do encourage you to take the time to see what cooperatives are working in your region, and reach out and have a conversation to find out how you can collaborate further.
Absolutely.
And speaking of collaboration, that is very central to your work. Do you have any strategies that you can recommend to help build those relationships with partners? Because economic development doesn't happen, one organization at a time. There's usually multiple players involved.
Yes, that is so true. I just did a presentation on the power of partnerships and economic development. There's really nothing that we do individually. We're always leaning on and working with our local, regional, state partners on everything that we do. I guess my advice for how to effectively build those relationships is to give more than you take, I guess. Look for ways that you can bring value to that relationship. And then keep your word. If you agree to something, people need to know that they can count on you, that you're a trustworthy partner, that you're not just there to take, but you want to give back too, and be a partner to them as well, if that makes sense. I mean, it's easy to kind of just focus on what you need to get this project through, but you can't look at it like that, because we are working with these people across many, many projects in many, many areas. So yeah, I think it's just seeking out, what do they need? It's not just what you need from them. What do they need from you? Or what could you offer them that would provide some value, that would help them reach their goals, and being that consistent. Also, you got to show up. You can't complain about things that are going on if you're not at the meeting.
Sure.
So show up, listen, look for ways to bring value, and just be a good partner.
Yeah, great advice, most definitely. So, hey, I was hoping that we could switch gears a little bit. We've talked about your background and have spoken about your role with Great River Energy, but I'd be remiss for us not to spend some time talking about the work you're doing with Mid-America EDC, and that definitely highlights the power of partnerships and being at that table. So you are the second vice president and membership committee chair right now for Mid-America EDC. And I know that you have a conference coming up, so I was hoping you could tell us about it.
Yes, we are so excited to be hosting the Mid-America EDC Best Practices Conference in Stillwater, Minnesota this year, coming up very soon, May 13th through the 15th. It's going to be a great event. We have great sessions lined up, lots of fun evening networking events planned. It's going to be a really great time.
Well, and speaking of Stillwater, we should call in our CEO because he lives there.
Yes, I have been working very closely with Erin Sparks on the conference planning. He's been an excellent resource for us, and I believe he's with us today, right?
I sure am. Hey, Erin, thank you so much for inviting me to join your podcast with you. Excited to talk
Yes,
about
thank
Mid-America
you.
EDC.
Love it.
I'll just say, yeah, I'm particularly excited this year, as Erin knows, and Golden Shovel's been part of the Mid-America EDC since 2009, 2010, quite a long time now, and just how much that whole association has really mattered to us and to all of the economic developers that are a part of it. I'm just totally floored that it's going to be in Stillwater this year. Stillwater, Minnesota happens to be where I live, and just a beautiful, beautiful town, and really excited about the programming. And um, one of the things that I think that the Mid-America EDC has that's so cool is there's so many things, especially in the Midwest, because if you're not familiar with the organization, it represents 13 states of the Midwest. And there's so many different things that happen in economic development that are very unknown. It doesn't necessarily get the same horn tooting as some of the other communities where there's a this deal or that deal going on. You don't get to hear about all the success stories, and it's awesome to be able to share those and some of the best practices that are really relevant to those states that are part of the Midwest. And it's made that entire conference really, really special. You don't get those types of speakers. You don't get that type of information that is necessarily coming out of some of the other conferences. I don't know. What do you think, Erin?
That's so true. You know, I think the Midwest is unique. I mean, every state is obviously different, but there are shared um, challenges, opportunities that we're all seeing. And so getting together and kind of asking one another, how are you dealing with this? Or how is your company or your city or your organization looking at this? It's really helped us develop our processes and kind of relook at some things once we've talked to others and figured out how they're doing things. It's just really invaluable networking with strategies that you can bring back and implement right away. I feel like this is one of those really high value conferences that can have an impact on your work immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited that it's going to be in Stillwater this year. I know that some of the things that are on the agenda, along with all the high quality speakers, includes a dinner on a riverboat. There are going to
Yes.
be, hopefully, it's just going to be beautiful weather. If you're not familiar with Stillwater, it's on a nice sloping hill, right up, butted up against the St. Croix River. It's absolutely stunning little postcard community, and we have site consultants coming in that are excited for the economic developers to meet, and going to be, I believe there's even going to have the Stillwater trolley bringing people through the community and talking about economic development and yeah. Do you want to touch on some of the speakers that are going to be there? It looks like just fantastic panels.
Yeah, we have some really great keynotes lined up. We're going to hear a lot about Destination Medical Center in Rochester and the work that Mayo Clinic is doing to build, the world's city for health. The Mayo Clinic is such an amazing asset that we have here in Minnesota that is really doing so much more than people realize. And the collaborative efforts that are going on in Rochester, I think, are going to blow people's minds. We're going to be talking about sustainable aviation fuel and the efforts in Minnesota to build an end-to-end sustainable aviation fuel supply chain. Very exciting stuff with the collaboration with Delta Airlines. We're going to be talking about food and ag, a topic that you can't get away from in the Midwest, right? We feed the world here. So we're going to be talking about some of the innovations around food and ag. gosh, we just have so much tourism as an economic development driver, talking about structuring outdoor recreation and how to build your community up from a tourism standpoint. Yeah, lots of great stuff on the agenda. I'm sure I'm missing a lot right now, but it's a lineup that you don't want to miss for sure.
Well, I love just chiming in here. I have not helped to plan this event, and I know the two of you have, but it sounds really exciting and like you're leveraging really not just what's happening in your target industries, but finding ways to bring in technology. So you're talking about the future and what I guess could help to shift some of those industries. Sounds exciting.
Yeah,
Well,
it's going to be a really exciting conference, and I hope that everyone listening today runs out and registers.
yeah, for sure. I was happy to jump in. I really wanted to be able to share my support for it too. Golden Shovel's been involved from the beginning. I was on the board for a couple of terms back in the day, but I just think of this whole conference as family. Maybe it's the Midwest mentality, or maybe it's just the scale of the conference because it's not really huge like some of them out there. That you really get to connect with people, and certainly we've made so many great friendships, and also learned so much from the different economic developers across the Midwest. So, by all means, I double what Erin's saying. Let's see you out there. By all, register, check it out. You can go to the Mid-America EDC.org and get all the information for registering for the conference. And look forward to seeing. Wow, it's coming up. It's in the middle of May, 13th, 14th, and 15th.
Yeah, happening really soon. Now, I know you mentioned that site selectors are going to be there as well. And I think you had told me in the past there's going to be a dinner. Is there still an opportunity to register for that?
There is. So every year we try and do a special event for our site selectors and our sponsors. And this year, Erin and I have been working on a very exciting reception. Erin, do you want to tell them a little bit about it?
Yeah, you bet. There's a kind of really cool success story. There's a couple that were living out in LA, Carolyn Smith and Adam Toe. Adam worked at a Michelin star restaurant, and Carolyn's a straight up rock star. Has performed as Your Smith, and has performed all sorts of other people in the industry. During the pandemic, they moved back to the Stillwater area and opened up a restaurant called Howard's. And we're looking forward to hosting the site selection and dinner there with where economic developers can interface with a bunch of site consultants, and at the same time hear this wonderful story of how this business grew from them directly. There'll be performances both by Your Smith as well as another band that's going to be playing. I think it's going to be an absolutely stunning event, and look forward to seeing everybody there.
Really intimate networking event with some great music, great company, great conversation. We're really, really excited about it. I would encourage everyone to sign up to be a sponsor so that you can attend this event.
Yeah, absolutely. There's still spots. So where would people go to register or to sign up to sponsor?
If you go to the Mid-America EDC's website, under the events and programs best practices conference, you can find information on our sponsorship packages for the conference. You can register to attend. You can register for the boat cruise, even if you are not attending the conference and you just want to come and network. You can do that. But yeah, we're just looking to connect people and create opportunities for this information exchange that we know is so important to our members and to the region.
Yeah, that's great. And I know that our team at Golden Shovel has attended the conference for years, and I hear from them all the time when they came back. I mean, for example, last year we sent a couple of our lead copywriters, and they felt so encouraged and gained so much information from that conference that they then were sharing with our clients all throughout the year. So I definitely echo what both of you have said. It's a hugely valuable conference. You're going to get a lot of information out of it and information that you can implement right away, which, I got to say, I feel like that ties a little bit into that Midwestern work ethic, you guys. You go to a conference, you better get something you can do. And you definitely get that from Mid-America EDC.
Yep.
That's right.
Hey, thanks so much for letting me pop in and share my thoughts on Mid-America. And I'm so happy to have you on our podcast, Erin. Thanks.
Thank you, Erin. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's great to have somebody local who can, tell the Stillwater story adequately because it is just such a beautiful place. Anybody who's not familiar, you should definitely look it up. And also want to keep people who maybe don't know, it is definitely in the Twin Cities metro area. So you're not going to be carted, 2 hours outside of the city to attend this conference. It's close, it's convenient.
All right, Erin. So you have gotten through the podcast, the hard part where you share your story and tell us a lot of really great information. Now we're going to have some fun. And I did not prep you for this at all. And that's part of what makes it fun because we're totally putting you on the spot as we play our shovel toss game. So in this game, I am going to put a timer on for 1 minute, and I am going to ask you a bunch of totally random questions that have absolutely nothing to do with economic development. And we're going to see how many questions you can answer in 1 minute.
Okay.
The pressure is on. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, so let's do this. All right, what was your first car?
Jeep Cherokee.
Favorite dessert?
Brownies.
If you could be a superhero, who would you be?
Oh, geez. I don't know. Superhero. Maybe Wonder Woman.
What is your favorite vacation destination?
Any place I haven't been to yet.
Okay. Book you are reading right now.
Oh, and now I can't remember the name of it. Something like Suspicion or
We'll go with Suspicion. What is your go-to song?
Well, lately, since we've been planning the conference, I've been listening to a lot of Caroline Smith, and I would say Child of Moving On.
Perfect. Something you can't live without.
My dog.
All right. And what do you want to be remembered for?
What do I want to do?
The hardest question of all.
Yeah, gosh. Kind of going back to what we were talking about before. I mean, I want people to remember me as a good partner, a good colleague, creative. Yeah, I'll stick with that.
I like it. So you got 8 before I took you to the last one. And on the last one, I always say, let's run over, right? Because that's an important one. How do you want to be remembered? So a good partner. That's fantastic. Now, what's your dog's name? Because we're done with the minute. You can tell me now.
Vikram. We call him
Vikram.
Bubba. But yeah, he is a 115 pounds of sweetness.
Oh my goodness, 115 pounds. That is a big Bubba.
Yes, he is.
Nice. Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much for playing and having a little fun with us. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I'm glad those weren't too tough.
Yes, not too onerous. Yeah, absolutely. So visit the Mid-America EDC website today to sign up to attend. And for those who want to learn more about Great River Energy and the work that Erin and her team are doing, I encourage you to visit their site as well. So thank you again for joining us today. I really appreciate the opportunity to have this discussion and hope that you have a good day.
Thank you. I really appreciate the time, Bethany.
Thank you, Bethany and Erin. And I personally am really looking forward to that conference up at Stillwater in May, 2.5 hours up the Mississippi River from me. So I'm going to really enjoy the drive and the time at the conference. And one thing about those conferences that is wonderful, especially with us being a virtual company, is actually getting to see clients and contacts in person, shaking hands, slapping backs, and actually getting to know them better rather than through our computer screen. So again, looking forward to that conference in May up in Stillwater, Minnesota. And speaking of seeing clients, seeing teammates, etc., you can check out our brand new staff pictures on the Golden Shovel Our Team page. We were black and white for many years, and now we are full color. So if you want to get a better look at who you're working with or who you could potentially work with, check out the Our Team page on Golden Shovel with our brand new headshots. Very exciting for us. As far as Golden Shovel content that's being pushed out, we have a couple webinars coming up April 16th with our partners at the British Columbia Economic Development Association up in Canada, emphasis on friends. We have a webinar, Harnessing AI Tools for a Smarter Economic Development Strategies, again, April 16th, 1 p.m. Central, and then coming up later in the month, April 23rd, Crafting a Compelling Community Story, Engaging Site Selectors, Businesses, and Talent. That'll be done with our friends at the Texas Economic Development Council. Once again, you can check out all of our previous webinars on our webinars page under the Resource Learning Center at goldenshovel.com, along with our podcasts and ebooks. So lots of great educational content on the Golden Shovel website. That'll do it. I am producer Darren, and we'll see you soon on the next episode of Shovel Talk.